4 months into this thing, I like the structural path we're on here. As long as we help Ukraine with the weapons they need and the economic support, they will fight to the last person. So Secretary Blinken, I didn't think there was an issue under the sun that would get 100 votes. We found it. Russia's a state sponsor of terrorism.
This is my second video update coming to you from downtown Belgrade, Serbia. Behind us is Republic Square. I've already done a bunch of videos here, but I am joined by my good friend, Kristian, who I know everyone knows. Kristian, because you've appeared on the Duran, you've appeared on my channel as well. And in Serbia, you are kind of a celebrity as well. But Kristian, introduce yourself.
I wouldn't say that, but first of all, Alex, welcome back to Belgrade. I mean, you've been here before, and I'm glad you're back.
I am happy to be back.
I mean, it's so good to have you back here. And as we saw in the beginning in the intro, Lindsey Graham. I mean, what a guy! What a guy!
Okay,
what can we say about
So
him?
look, you know, you've I don't know if you want to give a little bit of your background, because you are someone who has an expertise in these things as well. So you're going to talk about Lindsey Graham. You're going to talk about Ukraine and how not only how Serbia sees things in Ukraine, how you see things, but also how Norway sees things, because you were also recently in Norway as well.
The Duran shirt.
Exactly. So you're going to cover that.
Yeah.
And 10% off. Use the code GOODDAY. So you're going to cover that, and then you're going to also give us some insider insight with Kosovo and the flare-up there. So Lindsey Graham.
Lindsey Graham.
Ukraine, Serbia,
I mean,
Norway. How are you? How do you see things?
You guys just saw the video. The guy wants to fight to the last Ukrainian. He's not willing to send American soldiers there. And you have lunatics in Norway saying the same thing. They want to fight to the last Ukrainians. They're giving weapons, everything. But no Norwegian soldiers are dying for Zelensky. I mean, no one wants to. I mean, it's very sad. The game, Norway and everyone are fighting, I would say, against ordinary Ukrainians.
Well, you got Stoltenberg. He gave a speech. You were recently in Norway. And before we forget, give us a little bit of your background, because we keep on forgetting. Kristian is someone who can speak to these things.
Dear Duraners, I am a former NATO warmonger, turned a warrior for peace and democracy and freedom of speech. Because we're living in very, very dangerous times. We have the defensive alliance, NATO, that since the Cold War just has been creating war and havoc. It's terrible. And Norway sent me to Kosovo, you know, Kosovo and Metohija, which is his full name.
We'll get to that.
It's the autonomous province of Serbia. And NATO went to war in 1999 in support of Kosovar Albanians. And we actually recognized their state, or as I say, Pristina authorities. I mean, I don't recognize Kosovo as an independent state. But anyway, Norway sent me down to Kosovo to be the spokesman for NATO in 2000. I mean, I didn't get exactly that position. I was in charge of internet and everything, but Norway sent me down to be the spokesman for NATO, because I spoke a bit of English. But later I realized that when I'm pointing my finger at you, there's 3 fingers pointing back at me. So that is why I found my home in Serbia, and I gave my apology to the Serbian people for my arrogance and thinking that we in NATO are going to create heaven on earth, democracy, freedom of speech and everything. But I mean, everyone who's following Duran, they know that it's projection. When they speak about freedom and democracy, it's a completely opposite. So I'm very happy to be here, to be on TV sometimes in Serbia, to warn Serbians against the globalism and the anti-democratic institutions in the EU, in the NATO, in the World Economic Forum and all this. And of course, to keep their faith in the crucified and resurrected Jesus Christ. And I'm praying every day for a revival in the Serbian Orthodox Church. And we're sitting here in Belgrade.
Yes.
And well, let's say it very bluntly.
Yes.
Ukraine, they're losing it, or I should say NATO and the West.
Okay.
We're losing our war against Russia.
Okay. How is Norway right now viewing this war? Because you were recently there, and how is Serbia viewing this war?
Well, our dear General Secretary of NATO,
Okay, yeah.
the former Prime Minister of Norway, Mr. Jens Stoltenberg, he went on a summer camp where this Norwegian terrorist Anders Behring Breivik, he killed 67 kids at the Social Democratic Youth Camp in 2011. And now these days they had a youth camp again. And on that island, you had a lot of like social democratic youth saying, yes, 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 Jens, we love you, you're so handsome. We're gonna support Ukraine, whatever it takes. None of these guys have any idea what war is. I know, I've been under artillery fire, and it's hell on earth. And Ukraine is losing this. But if you care to suggest that there is two sides to the story, I mean, you're being blacklisted in Norway. You will not have any. You're being ridiculous. I mean, Serbia has taken a more balanced point of view. They've said that they've been against the war, but without taking away the support for Russia. So I'm hoping, I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, but I'm hoping that Serbia can play a strategic role in the post-war area. I mean, there's talks in the Pentagon that the Zelensky regime is going to collapse in maybe 4 weeks. Maybe that is too optimistic, but maybe a city like Odessa will fall without fighting. I mean, I'm hoping that this war will be over in a very short time. As I said, I am a former warmonger, advocating the wars in NATO, and now I'm a fighter for peace.
Okay, so you're someone who's been to Kosovo and Metohija many, many times. We had the situation in Taiwan, we had the situation in Kosovo. It pretty much happened almost, it seems, on the same day, all of this stuff going on. And we have a terrible situation in Ukraine. A lot of people say this is a distraction, what they tried to do in Kosovo and what they did in Taiwan. How do you see things happening now for Serbia, for a very tricky situation, a politically tricky situation in Kosovo and Metohija? And the fact that you now know that people like Blinken in the State Department, when they want to, they can stir up trouble. I mean, it was no coincidence that Blinken was in Albania and he was speaking to all of these guys, and all of a sudden, you had this happen. I mean, this is stuff that we need to keep an eye out for. What's your opinion on all of this?
Last time I was on the Duran, before the war and everything, I was speaking to Alexander, and I think I was able to sway his opinion a little bit. Because I said to him, Alexander, you're a man of law. And if Serbia continues to insist on international law, they don't have to do too much. Because Kosovo and Metohija, which is the full name, sometimes we say just Kosovo, but Kosovo and Metohija, Metohija means actually the land of the churches. It's actually a part of Serbia. And I'm thinking what could happen after the collapse of the West now. I mean, I'm in no doubt that the EU will collapse in its current form. I mean, with the economy of Germany, Poland, Europe will see a very cold winter. It's going to be interesting to see what does this mean for the future of Serbia and the future of Kosovo and Metohija as an integrated part of Serbia. I don't know all the answers, but I do hope that a Russian victory in Ukraine will be geopolitically important for Serbia. Blinken, well, actually, I have to tell a story about Blinken. I mean, he was on my email list, and he actually blinked me twice because he read my emails to 2 different email addresses, and he unsubscribed. So I can say I have been blinked by Anthony Blinken.
He unsubscribed to your email list. All right.
Actually,
Well,
at least he read them.
all right.
At least he read them.
Okay.
So yeah, that's good.
Not bad.
Not bad. But I mean, we all know that this guy, sleepy, creepy, bike riding Joe. Well,
But Bidenopoulos,
Bidenopoulos.
Greece's favorite son.
oh, he's the most popular president ever.
Yes,
so,
he is.
and he knows how to ride his bike. Fantastic. But I mean, at least in the old days, I mean, Clinton regime who bombed Yugoslavia, they're evil, but at least they have some common sense and some good people. But I don't know. I mean, I see in the shows that Alexander is optimistic that America is going to get through this. Well, we'll see. I mean, we're looking at a crisis in any case. And
Is Norway going to get through this?
hopefully, yes.
The economic
because
crisis, say.
economic crisis, we have our energy. We have our oil and we have our hydroelectric power. Even if we're sharing with the EU, we're sharing all our goods and services in the EU. It's a difficult situation, but I mean, Norway is not going to be the first country to fail economically. I mean, we're not like the Greens in Germany running their industry on the wind turbines. I like wind turbines more than windmills, because wind turbines is exactly what they are. Windmills, oh, then you get these romantic pictures of the windmills in Holland and everything. But this is actually dangerous to the environment, these wind turbines, killing bird life and destroying the ecosystem. So I say wind turbines. So Norway, economically, for now, is going to survive because Europe is going to be desperate for energy, and of course Norway is now selling gas as much as they can to Europe.
How about Serbia? How is Serbia doing
Serbia,
economically?
Economically, I mean, of course, there's people desperate on the streets. As people can see when they see your videos, there's frequent begging on the streets. And there's a lot of desperation in Serbia. But I mean, Serbia is a country that has been through many, many crises in the 90s with the sanctions and everything. So they are much better prepared for crisis than people in Western Europe who has been thinking that milk comes from the fabric, meat comes from the fabric. But it depends. I mean, I do hope that Serbia can be this country in the middle, like Yugoslavia was in the old days. Of course, the EU is the biggest trading partner for Serbia, but I'm hoping that Russia will be more and more important. Maybe Serbia can be like a hub for European companies to come into the Russian market to avoid sanctions. I mean, maybe, I mean, as you said when we were drinking coffee here, that countries in Southern Europe would reapproach. But I mean, for Germany and Poland to reapproach and cut sanctions, I mean, it's close to impossible. And in Norway, They said we support Ukraine no matter what, like Lindsey Graham was saying, we'll fight to the last Ukrainian. It's a very, very sad situation to see that my country is not abiding to realistic foreign policy. We're kind of liberal foreign policy in the political science terminology.
Okay, so I've got to ask Kristian one final question, which has always been on my mind. Why are all the NATO Secretary Generals Norwegian?
Oh,
It seems like they're always Norwegian. Why is that?
You had one Secretary General, Trygve Lie, if I'm not mistaken, 1948, and then we didn't have any.
And then you had two. You had Stoltenberg and the guy before Stoltenberg.
No, that was Danish. He was Danish.
He was Danish.
Yeah.
Scrap that. Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm 100% sure. But I mean, who knows? Maybe. I mean, we can hope that. I mean, Liz Truss would lose, but of course she'll be the Prime Minister of England. But maybe
she'll be Secretary General.
Maybe your friend Van der Crazy will be the Secretary General. I don't know.
No. She's
the only reason that Jens Stoltenberg, and I spoke to his father, Torvald Stoltenberg, in his kitchen, and this is interesting. It's a bit of a digression, but he is very much against. He was very much against. He's dead now. The NATO war against Kosovo.
He was very much against it.
Yeah, and he said that no independent nation would ever accept the terms that we gave before we gave to declare war against Yugoslavia in 1999. We wanted complete access on land, sea, and air without criminal responsibility or compensation. And the father of Jens Stoltenberg, which is I have him on tape, and it's published. He said that no independent country would ever accept those conditions. And of course, the only reason Jens Stoltenberg is now the General Secretary after Anders Fogh Rasmussen was the Danish Prime Minister.
The Danish Prime Minister.
Yes,
he was the
yes,
Danish
but
Prime Minister.
Scandinavians are friends. We're okay.
Yeah.
We're okay. The only reason he's General Secretary of NATO is that Norway, I mean, we're a peace nation, you know us. We love peace. That's why we go to war. In 2011...
War is peace.
War is peace.
Right?
War is peace. Our fabulous F-16 fighter jets, we dropped 586 bombs on the Libyan Muammar al-Gaddafi. Oh, I do have in my flat, I need to show you next time, my picture, signed picture, Muammar al-Gaddafi, the widow of the former ambassador to Yugoslavia, gave me that picture, signed. And actually, when I'm going to get buried in 50 years, I'm going to be in the grave with the same ambassador to Libya from Yugoslavia from 1976 to 1980. So that's a great honor. I mean, another digression, but I mean, Norway got the General Secretary with Jens Stoltenberg because we were one of the 6 leading nations to bomb Libya to hell in 2011. So we were rewarded by having Jens as the Secretary General, but everyone knows.
One of the 6
Norway,
leading nations.
Yeah, it's 6 leading nations. 6 leading nations. I mean, more nations in NATO, but we were leading that effort. And Norwegian politicians, I mean, I saw one member of one prominent politician, Liv Signe Navarsete, said that she was regretting this campaign, but I mean, Norwegian pilots and politicians said, oh, this was good practice for Norwegian fighter pilots to get some operational experience in Libya. But I mean,
I had no idea they were involved in Libya to such an extent.
Very much. F-16, 586 bombs. And actually, the public broadcaster in Norway, they did very good documentaries. The good bombs, de gode bombene, if you're a Norwegian, you can search for that. NRK.
Wow.
So, I mean, but of course, Norway is not deciding anything in NATO. I mean, it's whatever Uncle Sam says. So.
Kristian, where can people find you? Do you have a place where people can find you? And we'll put the link in the description box down below.
Yes. I mean, I have an author page actually at the Duran.
Yes, you do.
I do. I mean, just go to the Duran and search for Kristian, and that's it.
All right, we'll place that link
Yep.
down below. That's the video, everyone. TheDuran.locals.com. Look for us on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute,
And
Telegram,
of course,
and the shop.
Duran shop. The Duran shop.
10%
Actually,
off.
I have to say, Alex,
Yes.
that my geopolitical insight now, it's increased and increased and increased. Why? Because I drink from my magic mugs.
That's right.
I mean, good day, good day.
Good day, the magic mugs. Drink
Yeah.
from those magic mugs because
And,
your
much smarter now
geopolitical,
than before.
exactly, it goes up by like 1,000
Yeah,
points,
yeah.
maybe even more. All right, everybody.
Yeah.
Coming to you from Belgrade, Serbia, Republic Square.
And you're coming back, Alex, for sure.
I hope. I definitely hope. I love it here.
Yeah.
Take care.